So away from that, how do you know that you receive the volume of fuel you pay for at the pump? Well, it appears the Ghana Standards Authority is looking out for you, as it is warning of toughness on oil marketing companies that sell below approved volumes to unsuspecting consumers. The warning comes as the authority finds at least 10 out of the marketing companies in the last 6 months for what authorities describe as cheating by those companies by pumping out fuel below approved volumes. Executive Director Professor Alexander Dodu tells Ohiming Teria the move is to strengthen the sanctioning regimes of the authority.
The Weights and Measures Act of 1975 mandates the Ghana Standards Authority to check consumers are protected. It is mandated to carry out product testing and certification schemes, destination inspection, promote quality management system, among others. Consumers, especially fuel consumers over the years, have been shortchanged by some oil marketing companies. They receive less below the approved volumes of the commodity paid for. The Ghana Standard Authority fined over 10 companies 5,000 cedis each for what officials describe as cheating. They were punished for discrepancies in volumes delivered, meaning their customers did not get what they paid for.
Sometimes you get the exact volume you pay for at the pumps. On other occasions, you can easily detect you have been cheated. I complained about the amount of fuel I bought at a station here. The attendant discharged into my fuel tank less than the quantity I paid for. The following morning, I was there to lodge official complaint, but nothing happened.
Professor Alexander Dodu is the Executive Director of the Ghana Standards Authority.
When you go and buy your petrol, the Weights and Measures Act gives the GSA the right and the mandate to check that you are not cheated. Indeed, in anything, in fact, even when you go to the airport and they weigh your bag, we have a sticker showing that the scale is good. Now, consumers have a right to complain if it's not right. In fact, just over the past 6 months, I don't have the exact numbers, but we have sanctioned at least about 10 companies, maybe more. Because within the law, the pump is a machine. You can give too much or too little, but there's a limit which is allowed. So let's say, for argument's sake, the limit is 1 liter. If it falls, let's say, a few milliliters below or above, you can accept it. But if it's way beyond, we think it's a crime. And we find you 5,000 Ghana cedis. Consumers may not know this, but they have a right to actually call our offices.
These 10 companies you mentioned that were punished, what was the crime? What did they do exactly?
We call it discrepancies in the volumes delivered. In simple language, it means that you didn't get what you paid for. And of course, it's interesting, but I'm sure you know very well that when you use a machine in Ghana and it measures wrongly, it's never too much. It's always too little. I will not impugn any criminal motive. What I will say is that all the companies were giving much less volume than they should have given. I mean, if the machine is 40, sometimes you give more. But in this case, it was always giving less. And so we find them.
The GSA in the future will name and shame oil companies that sell below the approved volumes. But first, it wants to sensitize the public on the need to report all suspected dealings to the authority.
Are we thinking of a naming and shaming regime? The answer is yes, we are. We are thinking of a naming and shaming regime. Not now, because you have to bring the population and the companies on board. We want to sit with them to find out why is it that some companies, the equipment fail and they don't deliver the volumes they must deliver. I mean, consumers must feel comfortable that when they pay 1 cedi for petrol, they are getting 1 cedi petrol. If they don't get 1 cedi petrol, they have been cheated. And it's wrong.
From Kumasi for JoyNews, Ohiming Teria reporting.
So let's try and move this story forward a little bit. I have on the telephone line now Duncan Amwa. He's the Executive Secretary for the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Hello, sir. Thank you very much for your time here on The Pulse.
Thank you, Gifty. Good afternoon to your viewers.
How much of this information is available to the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers?
We get reports every now and then, and it is to be expected. Indeed, there are stations that you're actually told indulge in these things after past 5 p.m. when they know inspectors would no longer be coming around to check their pump readings. And so it is not a figment of somebody's imagination. This is actually happening now, where some pumps actually adjust their readings just to be able to sell far less than the consumer is paying for. Indeed, we would need a little extra spot checks on some of these pumps, even beyond the standard or regular working hours, the morning till 5 p.m. What I know personally is that some actually engage in this sort of act the moment the clock ticks beyond 5 p.m. And there are some stations that we are actually monitoring from here.
Which stations are they? Are you able to share?
It will be difficult. We would need to be able to get some of them right in the act, but we have a bit of insider information from people they have employed to do some of these things over the period. So I can confirm that indeed it is not something unusual. It does happen. Most stations would not do, but the few recalcitrant or deviant ones looking for money wouldn't mind at all adjusting pumps, sometimes changing the calibration just to be able to squeeze the consumer off certain liters and make money. Clearly, this is something that the NPA monitoring would have to move in to check. We would do our checks, but as and when we're able to get anything on tape or on camera, I'm sure JoyNews will be the first to have those ones. But I can confirm that, yes, we've gotten several reports where consumers actually pay for a certain quantity of fuel, but apparently they don't get it. Someone actually complained of an incident in Tema not long ago where he purchased about 60 Ghana to this fuel. Within an hour drive, all the fuel was gone. So indeed, you end up wondering if people are not being shortchanged in the process,
but that's
and what is the way forward.
I find that a bit curious, because if you go to the pump and you pay for 100 cedis worth of fuel, the monitor reads it, and you know that you're getting 100 cedis worth. How is it possible that consumers like myself are unable to detect that the monitor, whatever the monitor is reading, is not what I'm getting in my pump, in my tank?
One, you are dealing with a machine reading, and so what the machine has been programmed to read is what it will read. If the machine has to do, let's say, 4 cedis, 9 pesos per liter, and then it gets configured to read otherwise, the machine will dispense what has been configured to read. So most of the time, these things happen from the technical operators or the technical point of view, where people are not supposed to readjust the pump, but they go ahead to do so. And because it's a trust issue, and you only go to say, I'm buying 100 cedis, and the machine says, this is 100 reading, we take it that the quantity that has been pumped into our tanks is exactly what we are asking for. But I can confirm that there are some reported incidents of this ongoing currently. And I think we need to tighten our monitoring immediately.
So, but how will I know? How, if you were to perhaps provide some kind of advice for those of us who go to the pumps to buy our fuel, how would we know that we're not getting the worth of our money?
The good thing is every filling station is supposed to have what we call the 10-liter can or the intiatukruwa. When a consumer suspects a station of engaging in this cheating process, the consumer should immediately request for the intiatukruwa. If the station is not forthcoming with the 10-liter measuring can to be able to check the volume that it is dispensing, then the consumer should go to the next step of alarm, where you report the station to either the NPA, or you get any of the bodies so interested alerted, so that for whatever reason these stations are not supplying the needed quantities that they are charging consumers for, I'm sure once Ghana Standards Authority or the NPA or even COFEC gets involved in this, we will be able to bring some sanity to some of these pumps. But clearly, like I said, it happens to our blind side, and most of us do not even get down from our cars to check what exactly is being pumped into our tanks. And so I would request that every consumer sometimes would just ask for 1 gallon, which is a 4.5 liter reading, and see what the machine is actually saying. If it is 4.5 and a liter is 4 cedis 9 pesos, clearly a gallon should be around 18 cedis 40 something pesos. If it goes beyond that, then clearly someone is shortchanging you, and you need to raise the alarm there and then get other interested parties to also investigate and punish further.
Well, finally and briefly, the Ghana Standards Authority, we understand, is fining about 10 OMCs. I'm sure this must have come to your attention. What are your thoughts on that?
Indeed. We would wish that they tighten some of these spot checks or monitoring to ensure that some of the games that some of the, should I call it, reckless OMCs play on unsuspecting consumers could be minimized or mitigated altogether. Some would need to be checked, and so I am not surprised that GSA will be checking. I know for a fact the NPA equally does apply sanctions, but we would wish that some of these stations, when found culpable or guilty, should be mentioned and shamed. In the end, if you go and sanction and the public doesn't know, sometimes we assume that nothing is being done. We need some feedback from the authorities to be able to give us the confidence that in the minimum, these stations are not only shortchanging us and getting away with it, but we are also getting some relief or some respite from their bad activities.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Duncan Amwa. Duncan Amwa is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers there.